Guys, we reached the end of the year and you know what that means. Now it is time for my top 3 best and worst Girl Meets World episodes of 2015. Guys, it is here. We have finally reached it. We have finally reached the end of the year. And I found out that Girl Meets World is going to have a season 3. So in celebration of Girl Meets World having a season 3, I have decided to do this year's top 3 best and worst list. Now, all the episodes on this list pretty much are kind of evaluated on how I felt about the episode at the time, whether I was angry about it, how I felt when it was over, good or bad. These are my top 3 best and worst. Now, instead of starting off with the best and putting the best and worst together, I have decided to separate them and start off with the worst first. Now, guys, without further ado, let's get started with my top worst episodes of Girl Meets World for 2015. There were many episodes I could have chosen for this spot, but I chose this one because of how powerful it should have been. I understand this episode is an anti-bullying message and it's supposed to inspire others not to become bullies, but there was a problem. There was no bully in this episode. They just used this ridiculous fourth wall nonsense instead of using a real person. How is anyone supposed to relate to this episode without a bully to illustrate the message? And how should we believe that Riley would just give out her number randomly to any person to text her? Please do not say social media. She may be a dork and extremely naive about some situations, but she is not stupid. Anyway, this episode is on this list because it was supposed to be a very important episode for Riley and strengthen the bonds between her and her friends. Unfortunately, they bailed on that and it failed in the end. Girl Meets Rah Rah from season 2 is my second worst episode, and for those that actually saw my review, you probably know how much I hated this episode. And I did. I really did. Riley looks like a total idiot in this episode. She knew she didn't have the coordination to be a cheerleader, but she thought if she kept trying really hard, that someday she would make the team. Really? Who's the idiot that thought it was a great idea to write that in? If you don't have the talent, you don't have the talent. Heck, I would have been satisfied if she went to the coach at the very end and asked to train her, or asked the head cheerleader to help her for trials. But no! This undermines the rigorous training that cheerleaders must go through for competition, and it indirectly considers cheerleading as not a competitive sport. I really hated this episode, and I was thinking of having this as number 1, but there is another one that is much worse than this one. When you think of the new year, you think of change, starting things anew with a fresh perspective and an outlook of life. But you do not think of this. Yeah, soak it in, people. Soak it in. Moving on. Girl Meets New Year's was an awkward continuation of Girl Meets Texas, but there was a slight change. No Zay. Where the heck was Zay? He could have been an important person in this episode as the others. He could have served as a voice of reason and could have been the one to tell Farkle to butt out and allow Riley to live life for herself. You know, what your parents are supposed to do. And speaking of parents, Cory and Topanga were perennially absent throughout this entire episode, clicking juice boxes and giving medial advice to someone who isn't their confused daughter, or being the ones that actually tell Farkle to butt out. But speaking of Farkle, he was my favorite character second to Maya, but in this episode he was a flat-out jerk and I hated him for it. Who blackmails their friends into telling their own secret to their supposed crush? Who really does that? Really, who does that? And he would not let up. Plus, no one would speak on her behalf, just to tell him off. No one, not even Lucas or Maya. But besides all that nonsense, the person I really felt bad for was Charlie. They didn't really give him a chance by tacking that stupid creepy trait to his character, just so that stupid love triangle can continue towards the end of the season. New Year's means change, guys. Starting over fresh, not making a 360-degree turn to nowhere. Yes, people. Yes, this by far is one of the worst episodes I have ever seen this year. Okay, I know I was pretty brutal with the worst videos on this list. And honestly, that is how I felt throughout the entire episode. And those are my three worst. But now that the worst are out of the way, let's cap this entire video off with the best. Here are my top three best Girl Meets World episodes of 2015. This was the first holiday episode of the season, and it was truly packed with nostalgia. Shawn and Cory were reunited after years of being apart. Cory's parents came to visit as in-laws this time, and we finally saw Josh, the little brother that everyone had forgotten about. We also saw strong similarities between Maya and Riley and Cory and Shawn, especially when they were trying to out-best friend each other. I love that. But the best part about this episode was the connection between Cory and Shawn. Now that Cory is a dad, he definitely flexed his dad role by encouraging him to talk to Maya about his feelings towards her. It also showed that he had influence on Riley when she paired Maya and Shawn together. But as good as this episode was, it was sad not to see Eric and little sister Morgan there. Yes, people, Cory had a little sister. She existed. It's a minor gripe, but it was still a good episode. Although it was nice to see Chet as a ghost in this episode, the one person that I, as a curious Boy Meets World fan, wanted to see again was Angela, the woman that got away from Shawn. We finally had a chance to see her again in Girl Meets Hurricane. It was a decent closure episode for Shawn, but I wish they didn't write off Angela so quickly. It seemed like a cop-out when they gave her a husband and she only came to Shawn for just advice, not because she missed him. Plus, it would have been nice to see some drama between Maya's mom, Katie, and Angela. I could have had this episode lower on this list if it wasn't for my girl, Maya. For the first time ever, she found hope and decided to keep it. Even when Riley had her doubts, she did not give up. And for that reason, I decided to keep this episode as number 2 on my best list. Okay. I will admit that 2 of my top episodes have Maya as a centerpiece. But it's not because I think she's better than Riley or any other characters on the show. Season 2 was just full of major transitions for her character, and this episode was one of them. Accepting forgiveness from someone is really hard to do, and you saw that in her in this episode. Although she was able to forgive her dad, she wasn't able to forget what he did. But in the end, she was able to forgive herself for hating him. I was so happy to see so much growth in this young lady, and she was truly a gem that outshined the rest. This episode left me feeling happy and excited for what challenges she will overcome next. And for that reason, Season 2's Girl Meets Forgiveness is my number 1 best episode of the year. But guys, I'm interested to hear your thoughts. What were your top 3 best and worst episodes of Girl Meets World for this year? Leave a comment in the comment section below. I am curious to hear y'all's thoughts. You don't have to put them in order, but I would love to hear your thoughts about this year's episodes. But guys, that's it for me. I'm a Nature Girl 30, and I will see you in 2016 for Season 3. Peace out.